We have to introduce her.
Yeah.
Well, introduce away, man. You're the fucking host.
I know. I just kind of showed up.
Yeah,
We were like, here she is.
Well, and I didn't want to. All right, so I don't have the scripted.
Exactly, man. Like,
well, then let's just. You don't like it scripted, Zach? Let's just do it, man.
Let's just fucking do it. Let's figure it out.
So. Everybody, this is our new co-host. This is Claire from Butterfly Bakery in Vermont. We're really happy to have her aboard. She's smarter than me and Zach put together, so that's going to help a lot.
Hey, man, speak for your motherfucking self. You don't know you have no inkling to the level of my intelligence.
Do you disagree? Be honest. Do you disagree?
I'm not challenging anybody's intelligence. There are so many different kinds of intelligence out there that it is not even, So I am so happy to be here. This is great.
I think Zach said to me, she's smarter than both of us put together one day. That's why.
She's fucking highly intelligent.
All right. Well, welcome aboard.
Yay! Thank you for having me.
Virtual hugs.
Yeah, there we go.
Don't touch me.
Welcome to Flavor Balance Heat, the podcast for hot sauce lovers and makers. I'm Spike.
And I'm Zach.
And I'm Claire.
And today we welcome Jon Meyer from Bear River Bottling. Hi, John.
Hi, fiery friends. How you guys doing today?
Very good. Thank you very much.
Doing all right.
Good.
So can you tell us a little bit about your hot sauce history, how you got into spicy foods and then beyond your business?
I stumbled into it. It was certainly not by my own intent that I got into the hot sauce world. I moved to Utah in 2010, so that 13 years now I've been in the state. I came from Colorado originally, and when I moved to Utah, I enjoyed spicy food, but not really nearly to the degree that I do now. But when I got to the state, I realized that, black pepper is kind of spicy here, ketchup is kind of spicy here, and I didn't really have anything that scratched the itch, even if it was a pretty minor itch to begin with. And so a couple of years after being here, I ran into a friend who was making their own hot sauce in their kitchen, and I went over one night and just kind of hung out and enjoyed the process, and gave myself hiccups and tears for the first time, and just kind of got hooked on the culinary process, the puzzle of finding ingredients that made it up with peppers and different flavor profiles. And so I started making it for myself, which went on for maybe 5 years or so. I had zero intention of doing anything at the commercial scale, even at small scale. That was a terrifying idea for me to start something in the food industry and start my own business. And so eventually word of mouth spread, and friends started sharing it with their friends, and I was making slightly larger batches beyond just what I needed to use for myself. And eventually the friends started being like, you should probably do this at the farmers market. They're all big farmers market people here in our area, and they were all very motivating, and I resisted for at least 2 more years. I had zero interest in that at all, and eventually they wore me down. And I decided, maybe I will. I had enjoyed enough conversations with folks taking, woozy cases to parties or the bowling alley or something, and just sharing it with strangers and having conversations about sauce. And that kind of flipped the switch and got me hooked on the idea of sharing the flavors that I enjoyed for myself with other people. And I wanted to find somebody that knew business. I didn't know business. I'm a scientist by training, and so I'm almost by definition a poor business person. And so I wanted to find somebody that knew some business, and it was just a random interaction at a backyard barbecue where I met my first business partner, Lev, and he was somebody who had done lots of businesses in the past. He was business savvy, and he brought over a mason jar of his barbecue sauce that he made it, and I had my case of hot sauce that I always had with me, and we spent the whole barbecue in the kitchen just talking sauce and sharing sauce, and that's how I got started. And that was 7 years ago.
Oh, wow. So did you find, putting together the process a lot easier since you started in the sciences?
I think it helps being analytical about the process, especially as you scale up, going from a home kitchen of maybe a half gallon to doing 40 or 50 gallons at a time and being able to track batches and ingredients down to, like you guys have done ingredient lists. You got to be down to the grams and the milliliters with everything. So I think that really helped, having some research background and being able to go out and answer questions and find things that I wanted to learn about, and then just kind of go down the rabbit hole. That definitely helped. I'm a huge nerd. And so now I just get to be a weather nerd and a sauce nerd at the same time. And that definitely overlaps in my world a lot.
Oh, yeah. Claire has some good company here.
Yeah. My background's in computer programming, so yeah.
I know, but you like to nerd out on. You like to nerd out.
Absolutely, all the rules, that's my jam.
Yeah. We'll connect on Linux stuff after this.
I spent a lot of time there in college.
Yeah.
I'm gonna do this all-souls procession, so unfortunately I have to dip out. Was really expecting to do this at 5 o'clock my time.
Yeah, the time change messes everybody
up. No,
it's
okay. It was my fault for the whole daylight savings thing. Screwed everything up in my brain. So, but I'm gonna go spend some time with the missus.
Well, you have a good evening, Zach. Thank you for at least starting us out.
Thanks, Zach.
Yeah, I'll see you next week.
Sounds good.
I do want you to talk about that bacon hot sauce that you brought to market. It took like 3 years, so that is definitely a question they need to ask you.
Okay, sounds good.
Was it 3 years?
About 1.5 years. So 3 years is a bit generous, but it took a long time.
Yeah. All right. Make sure you talk about that.
All right. Thanks, Zach. Good seeing you.
Sounds good. Take care, Zach.
Later.
Yeah.
So, well, I'd love to hear it. I think it's a good time for it. Why don't we talk about the bacon hot sauce?
Yeah, the King of Sting. That was probably the first sauce that I really made after I started the business side of it, thinking about what could sell, what's viable at the market. Up to that point, everything I made was just something I wanted to enjoy and had some connection with friends. Almost all of my flavors are paying tribute to a friend of mine that helped me out early. But the King of Sting was the first one that I really was trying to build and design for the masses, and not just my friends in the farmers markets people. And I was trying to think of what I wanted to do for a very long time. And it just the idea for a honey bacon scorpion pepper sauce came from a dream, honestly. I had a dream in the early morning. I woke up and I was like, a honey bacon scorpion pepper. That sounds like a really great blend of ingredients. We do a lot of honey stuff here. Utah's the beehive state, so it was on brand with that. Who doesn't like bacon? And scorpion pepper at the time was a pepper I was just starting to explore, both in my own use and as an ingredient for sauces. I still love the scorpion pepper for its heat profile. But I had a dream. I had these ingredients in mind. I texted Lev, my partner, that morning at like 7. I was like, dude, I just had a dream about hot sauce. Yeah, I know it's nerdy, but I want to make a recipe with honey, bacon, and scorpion pepper sauce. And so I went down the rabbit hole for a couple of months, just kind of going out and seeing what other bacon sauces were out there. How do you get bacon flavor into a sauce? And it seemed like you had really one method, and that's, the powdered bacon flavoring stuff, which is usually some bacon flavoring that's attached to MSG or some flavor binder like that. And I wasn't against it. Some of my favorite bacon sauces that I tried used that approach, and I really enjoyed them. But I kind of wanted to see if there was something else that could make us unique in the approach with bacon. And initially I tried bacon grease because I knew we were going to use a little bit of butter in the recipe to cream it up. And so I tried bacon grease at first, and that the flavor just didn't translate. It didn't carry through the pasteurization process. So I gave up on that. And I kept kind of coming back to this mad scientist idea of, well, why do I just use real bacon? I use real bacon all the time in my dishes. I love to put hot sauce on bacon foods. Could I do a real bacon hot sauce? Because that's not out there. No one has tried that before. And usually when that happens, it means because other people have tried it or it's just not viable. You can't do it. And so I kind of did a little bit of research and realized that maybe I should try this and let's just see what happens. And so for maybe 4 or 5 months, I tinkered with recipes. I had my spreadsheets all built out on different ingredients. And I built a bacon hot sauce without really any considerations for the applications of using real meat in a sauce. I knew I couldn't go crazy.
Yeah.
And so it wasn't a huge ingredient in the recipe ratios, but it was in there. And when I got happy with it, when I was at a point where I was pretty comfortable with the flavor and the heat and everything was working well together, then I approached our process authority here in Utah, which is we're blessed here in Utah with our process authority. It's the state, so the state comes and does all the inspections, does all of our recipe approvals, all done by one group, one person. And so it's a tremendous advantage to have that kind of a relationship with the person inspecting our recipes in our kitchen. And so I sent off a recipe to this guy who I talk to frequently enough that we're kind of buddies on the side. And I sent out the recipe and I sent him all the details, and he's like, well, hold up a second. To use a real meat in a product, the USDA is going to have to be there to inspect it. And yeah, that's a great point. And, we're small enough. He was honest. He's like, the USDA does not care about you. They are not going to ever even answer an email or a phone call from you trying to get approval for this. And I was like, well, because at the time I had a friend who was an actual USDA certified meat inspector. They had the badge and everything. They would go out to the steakhouse and scare all the waiters because they could, get them in a lot of trouble for whatever, I don't know. But I was like, well, this is a friend of mine. They really like my sauces. They're a legitimate USDA. Maybe I could get it to work. Maybe I can get this friend of mine to come in on cook days and just hang out, make sure everything's fine. I was like, yeah, it's not a very good long-term solution, just in case, she moves or something. That opens us up to a lot of risk. And so eventually I was working with the process authority, and he was kind of trying to figure out how to make this work for us too. And he approached his superiors and kind of went up the chain of command, just trying to figure things out, and came back with, you know what? The USDA will not need to be there physically in person if you use less than 2% of that ingredient.
Yeah.
So you're saying there's a chance. And so I went back and I had to refine the recipe. My original recipe that I really liked had like 4% bacon in it. And so there was a process where this guy was like, well, it's 3% and then it's 2%. And so we went back and forth for like almost 9 months or something like that of getting this recipe dialed in down to the gram and milliliters of everything. He approved it, sending up his chain of command. They approved it. And the rest is history. Now we have a real bacon hot sauce. I had to play with some of the spices and some of the other flavor adders to preserve that bacon essence in there.
To bolster that flavor.
Yeah. So we had to play with some of the things like the turmeric and the butter and some of the other flavors in there. So the bacon still stands roughly where I wanted it to be. But yeah, 2%. I guess the USDA thinks 2% of anything is fine. And I still have original bottles from our first batch just because I like to see how recipes age.
Yeah.
And other than, oxidizing and pickling, everything seems to have stayed the same. No bottles have blown up on me or nothing's gotten gunky. So,
that's awesome.
It's good. I love it. It's probably our number one seller. It's the one that I use the most of. And it's maybe the most proud recipe I have just because I dreamt it up.
I've had a couple of those. Yeah, our black coffee mole, I actually dreamed it first. So
I love that. That's so cool to know that other people are as nerdy as me when it comes to they're dreaming about it. Like, what most people dream about, like, I don't know, climbing mountains and saving people from disaster situations or whatever. And we're dreaming about hot sauce.
Yeah, and I was never a science guy. And now that's my favorite part of all this now. I'm an English major, which is the opposite, Yeah,
that's great. I love it.
What are the elements of a great hot sauce for you?
A great hot sauce. That's a really difficult question for me because I love so many different types of hot sauce. But obviously, I think this is industry wide. It has to have flavor. It can't be an extract sauce. I do not enjoy extract flavors. I think it totally ruins everything else in the bottle. So a natural heat sauce that has some compelling flavor profile. The heat, the level of heat doesn't matter that much to me. It could be incredibly mild or incredibly spicy. If it has a flavor that's compelling and usable, I will find a way to use it probably and overuse it.
Yeah.
I love a thicker sauce. Sauces that are strained or super thin, I tend to gravitate away from. It doesn't mean that I don't like them, but if we're going to put a tag on what a great hot sauce is, I don't want to chase that sauce around my plate. I want it to stick to the food and then stick to my tongue after I'm starting to eat it. Yeah, but it has to be usable, right? There are a lot of flavor profiles out there that are so creative and innovative, but I have a hard time finding a food pairing for them. And it's like, this would go great on one meal a year, and it's an amazing hot sauce. I love it. It's so creative, but it's not as usable. And so I think that also is a separator for me.
I had one the other day that I tried on here. When we first started doing this, we would send out bottles to everybody, which did not last very long, but we would all try the same hot sauce and kind of give a little critique of it. And I tried one, and I'm not going to say which one it was, but I loved it. And then I still, every single time I see it in my cupboard and I pick it up and I'm like, no, this doesn't sound right for this. And I can't find anything to put it on, even though I love the sauce on its own. Yeah, it happens all the time, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah. I find I really like sauces that are more simple, that are supporting the flavor of the food that I'm eating, rather than just being their own thing in and of themselves. I kind of feel like that hot sauce on a spoon thing, it give you an idea of what you want, but like it's supposed to be part of something bigger.
Yeah, it's part of the meal, right? It should be a part of the food pyramid as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah.
It works for me. So what's the obviously outside of ours, what's the best and worst sauces you've ever had? And you can go for it if you want to say it, or you can just say what type of sauce it was.
The best sauce is equally as tricky as what a great sauce is, because I love so many sauces, but I think the first sauce that ever just sort of like gave me that light bulb moment of I am in the right world of flavor was probably Angry Goat's Demon Reaper, the one that they have their roasted sweet potato. And at the time I was building my tolerance, and so I was kind of numb to flavors at that point. But I tried the Demon Reaper with their roasted sweet potatoes, and the flavor was so well balanced with that heat. And at the time I was so into building my tolerance that those two really stuck in my memory as a wonderful flavor pairing. But there are so many. Like I went and was looking through my empty bottle collection here, just kind of trying to recharge my memory of what I've enjoyed over the last couple of years. I'm like, yep, amazing. Yep, amazing. Yep, amazing. How do I filter this? Because there's so many amazing sauce makers out there that are just so creative and are doing that, like you said, kind of that science approach to just nailing a recipe down, getting the ratios, the texture, the presentation, the body, the heat, how it transfers from start to end. All those things there's just a huge rainbow of options out there. But
my favorite. Oh, go ahead. I'm sorry. I was going to
say the Demon Reaper. Yeah.
I wrote it down. I've never had it. I'm going to order it. That sounds great. My favorite is when I have a hot sauce that shakes my world, my hot sauce world. Like the sauces I make, I'm like, I'm doing this wrong. And it happens every so often. Somebody does that where I'm like, oh my God, I have to rethink everything. I love it.
For me, I feel like it's the sauces that you're like, how did they do this?
Yeah.
Which I have to imagine, bacon sauce, as soon as Zac mentioned that, I was like, oh, okay, I want to know details. I know that 2% rule, and it, figuring that out and nailing that is definitely an art, and the working with the fat and what is it going to do to rancidity, and how, I had a sauce that had just a really fresh, like a fresh onion flavor. And, when you're bottling 40 gallons or 200 gallons, like everything cooks, it's cooking there for a while. And so keeping that like really bright, fresh flavor, that's the stuff that always makes me go, oh, what's that? I want to figure out how to do that. I want to try to figure that out on my own.
Yeah, I love that, because one of the biggest hurdles that I've encountered, and I had the same question for you guys, because you guys have probably scaled up beyond what we're doing in our kitchen, but those hurdles, those things that you never anticipated, just scaling a recipe, just thanks to the extra volume, the change in equipment, just the longer cooking time, like you said, Claire, it can totally change a recipe by making more of the same thing. And it's crazy. Have you guys had any of those kind of encounters?
Yeah, absolutely.
All the time.
And the thickness is the worst thing. Oh my gosh.
Yeah. Well, we've got so we do everything from stovetop batches, which are in the like 5-gallon range, and our largest kettle is 200 gallons. And so things really do change from step to step, and trying to I've got a pretty good handle on it at this point, but when we do co-packing, so working with co-pack clients' recipes, and the coolest thing about co-packing is that everybody's recipes are really dramatically different. Like you'd think like, the only way to make hot sauce is the way that I make hot sauce, but everybody does it different ways. And so they all act differently as they scale. And it's the evaporation in our 5 is about the same as our 40, but then if we do a 10 instead of a 5, then the evaporation is different in the 40. And then the 200, I mean, we drop out, easily 40 to 80 gallons of water or any liquid when we scale up to the 200, because it just doesn't evaporate at the same rate as the smaller kettles.
Yeah. Are those sealed kettles too? So that, that really stops any transfer?
No, you mean sealed kettles like the lid or the
down? Yeah.
So we've got our 40 and our 80-gallon kettle have just a hinge lid. It's a Cleveland steam jacketed standalone kettles, and they're short, so they're like really fat and short. And then we have a 100-gallon kettle, and that technically it has a lid. We don't ever use it. It's got an agitator on it, and we bottle from that one. So it controls its own temperature. It's got an agitator. I love that thing. It's beautiful.
Gold right here.
Yeah, I'm jealous. Yeah.
Right. We stumbled into that thing. That was just a weird stroke of luck. I don't think I would have even known it existed if it wasn't actually in our kitchen when we arrived. But and then our 200
happens.
Well, we bought our building from a applesauce cannery, and Stonewall Kitchens bought them, wasn't going to continue the applesauce operation, and so they left behind almost all of the equipment. And we just most of that equipment was in awful shape, and we spent more than we should have to repair it all. But it does mean that we had some fun equipment, like that. The 100 and the 200 are both from them. So
well, and you probably learn those things inside out through that repair process. It's like rebuilding a car. Like you can drive a car, but most of us have no clue how a transmission works. But you buy a crappy car, you got to fix it up. Now you know how a transmission works.
Well, the building came with 4 pumps, which I don't know if you guys work with pumps much, but they're all really different, and they're all really expensive to deal with parts, and they all range wildly. So our repair guys, when they looked at it, they were like, okay, this is the one that you should repair. This is the one that's going to be in the best shape, that's going to be easiest to get the parts for, et cetera, et cetera. And so we did put in a bunch of money to repair that one. It's a PD pump, positive displacement pump. Get that up and running. Turns out the seals on it are like $2,000 to $3,000 a piece.
Wow.
What? Like,
we'll turns out some chewing gum in there, it'll be fine.
Well, yeah, the applesauce manufacturing place, they just sealed it all with applesauce. So that was that. They didn't need seals. They had applesauce. We like to take things apart to clean it, so that doesn't work for us. It's been a interesting learning curve. But yeah, we're learning our equipment real well.
That's fun. Do you use steam kettles, Spike?
Not yet. We're still using a beer kettle. We're in the process of switching over. We have a steam jacketed kettle, but we haven't had a place for it because we brought it out of a restaurant. It's a breakfast restaurant that is only open till 2, so we've got the whole at night.
Oh, nice.
And it's weird.
Nice.
They've got 2 kitchens, so they've got a main kitchen and a bakery, and we bottle in the bakery, so it works really well for us. But we've got a 30-gallon beer kettle that we use, and we'll be switching over to the steam. We've got a 40-gallon steam jacketed, I think probably within the next month to 2 months.
Oh,
nice.
That's so exciting.
Yeah.
So the beer kettle, is that direct heat?
Yeah.
That's switching over to indirect heat is
my employees are so looking forward to switching.
You can tell who uses the beer kettles because they've got traps that are like up to their ears. They've got the immersion blender. They're scraping with paddles.
I want to ask you guys what you guys use for blenders, for immersion blenders, because those have just been the bane of our existence.
We use Roboku. Yeah, that I bought from Zac, as a matter of fact. Zac was going to go out of business and sold me everything, and then didn't
buy it again for himself.
Yeah, we've also got a couple Warings as well.
Yeah. What about you, John? Waring? Yeah.
With the longest possible stick.
Yeah. we've got some wirings, and we always have issues with the couplings coming loose, and then stripping the gears, or stripping that coupling in the middle there, and then damaging the bearings. And so what we found is that if the bearings will be damaged in the motor, they'll damage the bearings in the shaft, and then we switch them to it. Like, we'll get a new one and it'll damage the bearings in the new motor. And so we just have this endless cycle of damaged bearings in our wirings. And so then we got a Robocoo, and that was okay.
They're harder to clean.
Honestly, and I honestly don't remember what was wrong with the Robocoo. We actually have been getting a what is it called? It's a new one. They're amazing, but they're Turbo Mix. I think it's Turbo Mix. We were looking at getting this much larger piece of equipment. It turns out they also made immersion blenders. The thing I like about them is that instead of the coupling, they're threaded on, and then you can actually remove the core of the shaft. So we could actually like take it fully apart to clean it. And then also with the wirings, sometimes we would get where the bearings would start to fail, and then we'd get other leaking things, and we're like, have to toss that immediately. So the idea that this is fully disassemblable was really exciting. Turns out it's also fully cross-threadable, and you could fuse the parts together. So that's
perfect solution.
Yeah, so we're trying to figure that out right now.
It's all a minefield.
Yeah.
So what's the worst sauce that you've ever had?
I don't want to throw anybody under the bus.
Absolutely, I understand.
I want to make sure everybody likes me.
Yeah.
But I had, and like I said, out of the 150 bottles that I'll enjoy a year, maybe one or two of them are ones that I'm like, this really isn't for me. I don't pour sauces down the sink very often. I try to just find one use case for them and just go to town. But I did the most recent one that I got rid of had energy drink in it, and it had some extract in it, and those two things just totally turned me off. And I was like,
I had an energy drink hot sauce. I don't anymore. I did.
Well, we can keep the energy drink sauces off of my shelves. I'd be okay with it.
It's actually really funny. I've got a couple bottles left. It was really good. People loved it.
Really?
If they tried it, but most of the time, because it was an energy drink called Coffee Pop.
Okay.
So it was a coffee and soda. And then they had added other stuff in there. And I thought, oh, this is a great thing. They're on the west side of near the coast in Washington. So if we use their stuff, we're in a college town, college kids will see energy drink. It was my brain. And it was a failure, a complete failure, because everybody saw energy drink and thought, what do you call it? What's the one that everybody?
Red Bull.
Red Bull or Monster, or
yeah, they thought Red Bull, and then it just was a fail. They just didn't. But the ones who did try it, they loved it. It's really mild. It tasted kind of like a barbecue sauce. They loved it. But no, it was a failure. I could have probably remarketed it and done fine.
It was certainly the extract and the other flavors that turned me off to this particular sauce. But when I was reading through the ingredients and I saw Monster Energy drink like all the way at the bottom, like, did somebody knock a can off into the steam kettle? But yeah, and that's why it stuck in my memory with the energy drink. But yeah, it's energy drink and sauce might be kind of like people talk about, let's infuse like a pot sauce, let's get high while we have sauce. I'm like, how much sauce are you eating? Like, that seems pretty risky.
Yeah.
If we're gonna get buzzed off of a sauce, I think we'd have to have a lot of energy drink in there.
Yeah. It was I'm surprised I've heard somebody else has actually tried that. I shouldn't be, but
I'll send it to you offline so you know who I'm talking about.
Oh yes, please. I might even buy a bottle just for the
me
fun
on that.
Yeah.
Okay, I will.
All right. So from your own line, what's your favorite sauce that what is your favorite sauce from your own line? And then on top of that, which sauce did you love that just didn't take off, that may have been a dud that failed? Like my energy drink. Hot sauce.
Yeah. Yeah, the honey bacon scorpion, the King of Sting, is the one that I use the most. I still get high on my own supply for that one.
Yeah,
it's got the right flavor and it's got the right heat, and it's usable on a lot of the kind of food that I eat, which benefits from like the saltier, savory type of hot sauce. My sweet ginger Thai is maybe my second favorite. It's a sweet chili sauce. It's got fish sauce in it, and a lot of green onion, scallions. So it's got a really good depth of flavor. I really like Asian sauces. Like when you were talking about the sauce that you see somebody else do that like brings you down a peg or two, Rising Smoke's Synergy, if you've had that flavor. Like I tried that sauce, I was like, man, I love my ginger Thai, but this is so much better. Mike did such a great job on that flavor. So I was like, okay, maybe go back to the drawing board on the sweet ginger Thai. But those are probably my two favorites out of my lineup.
I've had that one, by the way. It is very, very good.
The ginger Thai?
Yeah, Roger sent me a bunch.
Yeah. Roger is so prolific on his sauce care package that he sends around the world. He's a great guy. I love Roger.
Yeah, he is fantastic.
Yeah. I never ask him to send anything anywhere. He's just like, oh, I sent, this person a 12 of your sauces. I'm like, but you paid me for those sauces. Why are you sending those out to other people? I hook him up with cases as much.
He does that for us too. It's like just so sweet.
He is the sweetest guy. I love Roger. I was down at his shop yesterday helping with the sampling booth for him and just talking sauce for a couple hours. It is.
Oh, I saw the picture. Yeah.
Yeah, it's a great time. I can't get away from talking sauce. I love it. But back to the question, a sauce that really didn't hit. I've been lucky that I haven't had any duds, which maybe because I'm not branching out as much as I could. But my tropical citrus surprise is one that I really enjoyed. It's a good sweet citrus sour, has a tremendous amount of fruit flavors, which is kind of tough to get to stick around through the cooking process sometimes. And so I was kind of proud of it for its flavor profile. But people just have passed it over at the farmer's market booth for other flavors. And it's one of those, like, if it went away entirely, it'd be okay. I keep it around for a select group of people that really do like it. And I made it in honor of a friend of mine, so it's kind of special. But that's probably the one that's been the biggest dud in the masses, I would say.
That's really hard, isn't it? I've got our ginger carrot that I love.
It's a great sauce.
I had to make it seasonal because it just wasn't selling like it should.
Yep.
But I couldn't get rid of it. I just love it. So
do you find that making those seasonal actually improves its sales traffic because there's some scarcity economics and then people are excited and now their brand focus comes back on you again?
Yeah, absolutely. We have the Bizarro sauce, which is the cranberry habanero, and people love that sauce. And as soon as it comes out, they're buying cases of it. So it really helps. And we just do one batch a year and it's done, and it can last as much, as long throughout the year as we need it to. So it's great.
Yep. When it's gone, it's gone.
It's all a matter of room, which we all, I'm sure, well, except Claire.
No, I don't have enough room. Not at all.
Oh, really? I thought you were saying, yeah. I misunderstood that you had more room than you thought you knew what to do with.
No, I mean, we have a lot of room, but it wasn't enough. We grew while we were in the process of buying the building. And so when we moved in, we were like, oh crap, this wasn't enough. And it's still way too much.
It's kind of the Field of Dreams approach. If you build it, you'll fill the warehouse up.
Yeah.
God, yeah. Well, and it took us like 2 years to fully unpack from the move. So, that finally would free up some space here and there, but then we just fill it right back up.
Well, I have this sneaking suspicion that, so as a chef, everybody always dreams of a bigger kitchen. You always end up in a tiny little kitchen. You don't have enough room, never enough room, just like for us. And I always thought that, if I had enough room, if we'd be able to do this and this and this. And I finally got a job working at this one restaurant and it had more than enough room. And I was exhausted because I had to run so far for everything. I was dreaming of a small kitchen again. So I think it's the same.
We joke that it's a quarter mile from one end of our building to the other end of the building. It's not, but it feels like it sometimes. We all want scooters to go from one end to the other. Our building is super long and narrow.
Motorcycle.
Yeah, exactly. Or little like wheelie shoes that we could just like slide across the room. That'd be great.
A Segway. Yeah. Really want to nerd out.
We have an employee who brings his daughter to on the weekends. He does our milk pickups because we do caramel as well. But so he brings his daughter on the weekends and she just scooters up and down the hallways, just, waiting for him to do his thing. And she just loves it. Apparently it's like her favorite thing.
I have a new dream now. I want to have a big enough place to need a Segway.
That's when you know you've made it. Until then, I think we finally discovered the definition of small batch hot sauce. If you can use a Segway in your business, you are now no longer a small batch hot
That's
sauce.
exactly it. Flavor Balance Heat, the podcast for hot sauce lovers and makers, is brought to you by Irish Spike's unique hot sauces and Vandal pepper sauces. I'm Spike, the owner and executive saucier. Our sauces are handmade in the Pacific Northwest using the best possible ingredient. We believe that hot sauce equates to a balance of sensational heat coupled with a robust and complex flavor profile. Live your hottest life with Irish Spikes. Irish Spike's unique hot sauces and Vandal pepper sauces are available at saucecult.com. All right. So next sauce. Now this is Claire's idea, and I love this. So what's your next sauce? It can't be one of ours, can't be one of Zac's, and it can't be one of Claire's. The next sauce you want to try, maybe something you heard about.
I picked this up from Roger's booth yesterday. I got to sample Bayou Gotham's Zing Dynasty when I was at the Fiery Foods Festival this March. They were across from us, so we got to talk sauce frequently. And he was just bringing this to market, the Zing Dynasty. So it's a really fantastic blend of really complex ingredients. You know, this was sort of the John Hammond spared no expense kind of a sauce. And so I'm super excited to try this. It's sitting in my queue. I moved it right to the top when I got home yesterday.
What's in it?
Yeah, so we've got tamari, brown sugar, rice vinegar, shallots, garlic, red habanero peppers, tangerine juice, ginger, roasted sesame oil, Sichuan peppercorn, shiitake mushroom powder. And so
nice.
I love a good umami flavor bomb that has a little bit of subtle sweetness underneath of it as well. That's why like Synergy from Rising Smoke just spoke to me. So I'm super excited to try this on some of our stir fries this week. I'm planning a sauce is good. You're excited for it when you plan a meal for a hot sauce, and that's what we got going on this week.
Awesome. That sounds great.
Yeah, that's a great question. I love that one. It made me think.
Yeah.
John, I saw your sauces for causes on your website, and that's awesome. We have a similar program. We call it Generosity. And I want you to tell me about sauces for causes and what kind of programs you work with and how you work with them and how does that happen?
Yeah, that's a fantastic thing. And I think that's one of the unifying great aspects of the craft hot sauce industry, because I would say like 4 out of 5 sauce makers that I meet have some version of our sauces for causes, which I chose sauces for causes because it's an anagram. Sauces and causes are an anagram, and I'm a nerd, so yeah, whatever. But yeah, so sauces for causes started with our lightning hot buffalo sauce. It was made in honor of a friend of mine who was very influential in putting me down the path that I'm on with my science, with meteorology, with climate science. He was a guy who he had cystic fibrosis. He was a storm chaser. He passed away 12 years ago now from cystic fibrosis. But he was like one of the most amazing people in a lot of people's worlds due to like the heart that he had and the support that he gave everybody, no matter what or what they did. And so his favorite sauce was a buffalo sauce. And so I knew that I was going to make a sauce for him. And so I made a buffalo sauce. It took me 18 months to develop the recipe, which is like 5 ingredients, but I just really wanted to nail the flavors and the ratios and the cook process down. And so, yeah, part of the proceeds from our buffalo sauce go to the Cystic Fibrosis Foundation. I'm also a manager of a scholarship in his name back at our alma mater in Colorado. And so we've given out for 7 years in a row. We've given out $1,000 that sauce is raised each year to an undergraduate who does both journalism and meteorology as their degree, and that just gives them a little bit of help. But yeah, charity is a huge deal for me. Like I want to be successful so I can be philanthropic. Like I really want to be able to just give back to the community. The community is a huge deal for me. And everybody that's in our business that helps out. We have 2 sauces for causes officially. The other one is our Bingham Brush Fire, the honey chipotle that we do. And that one's in honor of Lev, my first partner. His brother died of cancer in his late 30s. And he was a very significant piece in Lev's life. that guided him as an older brother. And so we donate proceeds from that one to the John Huntsman School of Cancer down in Salt Lake City.
Nice.
But we do a tremendous, I've never said no to any charity. I've sent out charity bottles to other states even. You get those Chat GPT emails that somebody is put together, and they're just kind of scraping the internet for charity. And I'll say yes to that stuff, even though it's, might be on the other side. We love veteran causes. Do a tremendous amount of veteran work in our valley here. We've partnered up with Cash Coffee, which is a very veteran focused business here in our valley. They do veteran meals every Friday, and they provide free food. The veterans come in and have food and a place to just talk with fellow veterans. And so we'll give sauces or go serve food there. I do a lot with science and conservation charity, just because of the connection with the university for the day job. And so I've made a lot of friends there that see me as a unique kind of connection with the sciences and products that they can sell. A lot of Planned Parenthood as well. We've got Planned Parenthood and CAPSA that are here, and we donate to them every year and give them some charity sauces. I love charity, and I know Spike's got his, you have yours. Zac does a tremendous job with charity, and I think that's one of the most amazing things with the hot sauce world is like every company out there has some version of sauces for causes. And I honestly, one idea that if I had more hours in the day, I would love to do is create a website that features all of the different charity sauces around the country.
That would be awesome.
Yeah, it would. That's fantastic.
We have giving periods of the year, like around Thanksgiving and the holidays, where people can go out and support these sauces for causes. Because I think it would highlight lots of amazing brands that are focused on the right things, which is, supporting the community that's supporting them.
That's a great idea. And I was just talking to somebody, I'm going to leave their name out of it, but I'm going to say I was talking to somebody this week about that, about doing a charity sauce and doing a collaboration. And if you're okay with it, I'd like to pass that idea along to them, because there's somebody that might be able to make something like that happen.
Yeah, if somebody has the bandwidth to handle that, I would love to see that out there.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah.
That's fantastic.
That's awesome. Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
Well, let's give you guys a chance, because I want to hear about your charity work as well, because I think that's important to highlight for everybody here.
You want to go first, Claire?
Sure. So we do the generosity program. And initially when we were first starting out, we did them all as one-off batches. So we did a program we also did a veterans one with 14 Star Brewery. We do a lot with local breweries here in Vermont. And so it was the Josh Pilata Fund, where they help veterans deal with the mental health aspect of reintegrating to a non-combat society, part of the world. That Josh Pilata himself committed suicide because he couldn't handle the change. So that was a really great one. We did Vermont refugee resettlement, helping folks settle in Vermont. There's actually a really strong refugee world here in Vermont, which you don't necessarily see in the greater in the rest of the world, but strong refugee population here. And we did Assigned Mild at Birth, which was a trans rights supporting group that we raised money for, and that was really fun. So we did those all as like little one-offs where we would raise, just in the hundreds of dollars. And then I really wanted to make something consistent. So we started doing our Ghost Verde pickle. So it's a spicy pickle hot sauce, and 5% of the funds from that go to World Central Kitchen, which, World Central Kitchen, they're just an absolutely incredible organization. They feed people everywhere, including here in Vermont. They were here obviously during the pandemic, but then also we just had floods this past summer, and within a day they were here in our town feeding people. They're in Ukraine, they're in Gaza, which who is going to Gaza right now? And they are feeding people, and that's just what they do, and it's incredible. And then we also just recently did a Pride hot sauce, which, Spike, I saw your Pride hot sauce, which I didn't even know that the only other Pride hot sauce when I was first doing ours that I could find online was Old Bay had a Pride hot sauce last year. I know, right? You wouldn't expect that. But we did a maple sparkle sriracha with edible glitter in it, donating money to Vermont Pride Center. And that was so much fun. That was just, we're going to get better coordinated next year. And we have actually a drag queen here in Vermont named Sasha Sriracha, which just by chance.
Oh my gosh. I can't wait to tell you something. I'm doing a sauce with a drag queen named with the same similar name.
Oh my gosh, that's awesome.
Franchising.
That is awesome.
Actually, drag king.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
So that's great. But and then we also donate 5% of all of our retail website sales to the Vermont Food Bank. And we started doing that during the pandemic. So I have to drive from home to my work. I drive past this little tiny airport that is here, in the neighboring town. And it's a little, doesn't even have, I don't think it even has a air traffic tower, anything, really tiny airport. But it's where a lot of rescue type work happens, so when we had the flooding, it's where FEMA set up. And when during the pandemic, it's where they would feed people. So our National Guard put together a program of food boxes, and anybody could come and just get a food box, put in their trunk, no contact, et cetera, beginning of the pandemic. And I was on my way to work and I saw this line. I mean, there were thousands of people. The cars went all the way through the airport, off onto the main road, and backed up onto the highway. And the highway is like 3 miles away. Vermont doesn't have that many people. And to see this many people who needed food this much was just like, we can't stop donating to the food bank. And so instead of making it this little one-off program that we were doing, we just made it permanent. So it's 5% of all of our website sales.
I love that. I'm probably going to copy you on that. I'm sorry.
Yeah, I've already
right ahead.
I have to admit, there's been a few things you guys have said with regards to this stuff that I'm like, okay, taking notes.
Well, never say no to charity. God, we do get some chat GPT generated things where I go, ooh, what is that? So but maybe it's better to be wrong in the right way than right in the wrong way. So
that's kind of how I approach it. It's really not a financial burden. And I would rather take the risk of it being worth it for somebody on the back end than trying to filter out, because I'm sure we've sent them to people that are like, I just want free sauce. But if that's you,
karma.
Ooh.
Yeah, I needed that free sauce. They were probably eating something that needed some sauce on it. That's exactly it. Yeah, and we do our Pride sauce. It's unicorn. We have our most popular sauce is unicorn blood. It's an orange chipotle, and we make it into we rebrand it as Unicorn Pride. And I wish I had a bottle here right now, because we just announced the new Unicorn Pride label, which I'm proud to say my youngest kid made.
Oh man,
that's great.
And just over the last couple of years, they have come out to us, and so it's been a really wonderful experience.
That's
great. And they did a fantastic job. I can't wait to roll it out next year. And then we did one with Fair Idaho. Fair Idaho. It was just a one-off, but I'm probably going to do it again because it was a lot of fun. We worked with all the local farms. We did a chickpea, because we're kind of known in our area for chickpeas. We did a chickpea hot sauce, and it was supposed to taste a little bit like hummus, and it really did. It came out really good.
That's awesome.
Yeah, it was fun. And Fair Idaho advocates for independent restaurants, family farms, retailers, food and beverage producers in Idaho. And during the pandemic, especially, it was just very sorely needed, as it was everywhere. And then also this year, splitting this up, but our Pride sauce, we split between the Trevor Project to help LGBTQI teens in crisis, and Inland Oasis, which locally is our local organization, because here in Idaho, kind of known for not being as tolerant in that area. And Inland Oasis also runs the West Side Food Bank. So we're able to kind of double that up in that. And it's been a lot of fun. And with us being near WSU and U of I, within an 8-mile radius of us, we are constantly asked by, I'm doing gift boxes for this and gift boxes for that. And I just say, pick it up. We're at the restaurant. So I've got a shelf. It's got your name on it. Is 4 bottles or 6 bottles work? Oh my gosh, they're so happy. And it's like, I really didn't have to do much here. You're all doing the hard work. So
you're right. They are always so like happy and almost surprised. Like somebody said yes to that.
Yeah.
Like, who are you talking to? That's like, of course not. I'm not going to send you a small amount of products to support your thing.
Yeah. I mean, and it just feels like I always feel like I haven't really done that much. My favorite thing I've ever done, well, I think the Pride sauces are my favorite, but this is a close second, is that last summer they have an organization that does a camp at the university called Pizzaology, and they asked me to come in and make hot sauce with the kids. And so I got to spend 4 hours making hot sauce with the kids, and it was so much fun. And I designed 2 hot sauces that will be eventually out. We did it together, and it was so much fun.
I love that.
Yeah.
Just yesterday at Roger's booth, there was maybe like an 11-year-old kid. He came through and he went straight to Danger Close Corner on Roger's table, which has like Hellfire Doomed, all the Pepper X stuff. Like the place that you don't send most of the audience that comes there. This kid went straight there, stone-faced, took every little bit of sauce that Roger gave him. He's like, it's pretty good. And on his way out, his dad was like, would you guys be interested in having a sauce apprentice? Because he lives and breathes hot sauce. He grows his own peppers. Would you mind just, talking with him about sauce and making hot sauce? I'm like, of course. This is the next generation. Like, this is I love, out of all the people that come to the booth, when it's like a 10-year-old kid and he's super excited about it, I'm like, this is my family right here.
Yeah. And I love to give them my email and say, if you've come up with something, I want to taste it. Give it to me, please.
Yes. That's the best part about farmers markets.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Okay. So now, inspiration. Who in the industry really inspires you?
Generally, I would say anybody that has been able to grow their business to have that be their thing. Like, so many of us have done hot sauce because it's a passion and it's our side hustle. And I am absolutely inspired by anybody that was able to make a worthy lineup and then solve the riddle of being a business person at the same time. And so being able to scale to the point where that is your thing. Like, that is super inspirational for me, because I get to juggle two things and I love both of them. But for people that have been able to overcome the day job handcuffs and are courageous enough to take that leap of faith, which I think for most people, it is a leap of faith. That's really inspiring. 2 companies that probably have stood out in inspiration are going to be Karma. I've got the science background, and so hearing Gene's story about, being in the science and just engineering world, which is probably a very safe and secure industry to be in, to make that leap and then to excel to the level that Karma has and to do it themselves without co-packers and to grow all that stuff, that lineup to the degree and the magnitude, the rate of growth that they've gone through is really inspirational. And the second one, I'm going to say, I probably wouldn't have said it because it's Zac. And since he's not here, I'm going to say what he has been able to do and accomplish, and the amount of interaction that he has with the community and support that he has, I just find totally inspiring. And just with his Red Label stuff now, which everything going towards a fellow, person in the community that struggled with finances, like that is the goal for me, is to be able to grow it and to be able to have it to be at that level where I can just be like, yeah, I'm going to make a sauce and everything goes to charity. And so those 2 companies have really stood out. But I was watching some of your episodes in the past that you've done, and Jules from Jules Creation, like she's in the same situation that I'm in. Like, she spent 10 years in school, got advanced degrees, and she made that leap and had that courageous pivot point in her life where she went full-blown hot sauce, and I'm too chicken to do that. I think my wife would prefer I choose one or the other. that sometimes because I'm very much a functioning workaholic when it comes to spreading my hours out. But yeah, hearing Jewel talk about her story it just resonated. So I'm going to add her to the list too, because she's been on a very similar path that I'm still treading as well.
That's awesome.
I'm Claire George. I own Butterfly Bakery of Vermont. We make hot sauce, mustard, cookies, and granola, and 100% of our products are made with Vermont ingredients. The thing that I hear most often from people is that my hot sauce tastes like the peppers that are in it. We do really simple recipes that don't get too crazy and nitpicky, just to really accentuate the flavor of the peppers that are in there. The unique thing about our hot sauces is how much we feature the farm and the relationship with the farm, and really bring the terroir of Vermont to our hot sauces. I am pretty sure I am the #1 purchaser of Vermont-grown chili peppers. I would love it if there would be a legitimate pepper market in Vermont where people would know Vermont for its peppers. We're all better for supporting each other. You know, and I think that part really shows itself with the collaborations that I do with the other businesses and the other farms, that I love working together and coming up with new ideas and presenting each other with new challenges. And I think overall that's the attitude here, and I absolutely love it because that's my attitude. I try to live my life with love. The ingredients that I use, I would say that my values are reflected in that, that I use ingredients that, again, feel good, feel loving, feel supportive. The relationship with the farmer was how it all began. If I changed the reason for it being, if I went out and bought some commodity peppers, you know, it might not be as good.
Awesome. All right. So now we've done the positive. Hot sauce, hot takes. And I've got one today, but I'm going to go after you guys. I don't usually have one. I've got one today.
I gotta flip my over so I have my note here. Yeah, I had two things that I could think of for my hot takes. One is dripper caps.
Oh, yeah. What's it called? Zach calls them fun stoppers.
Fun stoppers. They very much are. I don't understand dripper caps myself. And so many hot sauces don't work in the craft world with the dripper cap because they're thicker and they aren't thin, and you got to strain everything out for a dripper cap to work. And so, yeah, we should get away from dripper caps. If you're still using dripper caps, just get away from it. If somebody overpours, that's a good thing for you. And yeah, they'll come back and buy another bottle unless you've nuked their taste buds.
Yeah.
So that's my one pretty mild hot take, lukewarm hot take. And my other one is with serving sizes on bottles.
Oh yeah, Zach. Oh, Zach's gonna miss this.
I can chime in for Zach. That's okay.
A teaspoon is totally outrageous to be a standard serving size of anything other than like an ultra hot sauce. And it hides ingredients and nutrition so easy. Like there are times in some of my recipes where I go create the label and I'm like, there's no way that this is 0% sugar on this label. Like I've added sugar, it's on the ingredient list, but because the serving size is so minute, it shows a 0% sugar. Yeah. And I'm like, that's misleading. And also no one's using a teaspoon of this sauce. So it's, I don't know, I want it to tell me exactly what I'm consuming. And I don't want to do, total scale math analysis to figure out. This says I'm only having 5 milligrams of salt, but in reality, I just consumed a gram of salt because I'm using so much of this.
Yeah.
So the reality on that is that it is a requirement by the FDA that teaspoon is the required amount because it's a minor condiment. Okay. And while I understand like the hot sauce being that minor, like I can see, having a teaspoon of hot sauce, maybe not on like an entire meal, but like, on a plate or, next to your eggs or whatever, like a teaspoon. Mustard is also considered a minor condiment. And like who uses a teaspoon of mustard on anything? Like 2 fries, maybe? Like what, who, even a burger, you're having at least a tablespoon of mustard. Yeah, so it's a requirement. It's an FDA requirement. And you can put it up there with my FDA requirement frustrations, like coconut being considered a nut. No, it's not, but it is by the FDA standard. I think somebody was like, it's a nut. It's a tree. We're going to call it a tree nut. Yeah. No.
Yeah. Well, and
never seen a coconut, made that choice.
I think
yeah.
A good middle ground would be like, okay, a tablespoon, but you can't do it.
Yeah.
But a tablespoon would make sense.
Yep.
Well, and the rounding is so absurd because you do have to round it off. So, what if it only has 1 calorie, or it has, like if it has 1 or 2 calories and you say it has 0 calories, but if it has 3 or 4 calories, then you say it has 5 calories. And so you can't even do the math to stretch it out. And it just is so, it's basically just meaningless is what it is. So we do our own nutrition panels, and it's easy. It's really easy to do a hot sauce nutrition panel compared to like our cookies or something. But no, it's meaningless.
I can't remember what brand it is, but it pops up on the community, the social media communities every couple of months. There's somebody on their label, instead of an ingredient list, they're like, it's hot sauce. There's no nutritional value. Just eat it and enjoy it. And everyone agrees, like, yeah, that's exactly how we should approach it. But
sodium makes sense. I feel like knowing the sodium content of the salt is the one relevant piece of information on there, is knowing, especially if you're restricting your sodium, or actually sometimes I don't get enough sodium, weird side effect of being me. And so just knowing that, this has enough sodium for what I'm trying to do. Like, so I feel like that's, and when a hot sauce has calories or fat in it, then I'm like, I know I'm in for something.
Right.
Yeah.
That's sort of the green flag of intrigue that pops up.
There was I think it might have been a Hot Ones sauce, or maybe it just came from the Heatness or something. My husband has a subscription box there, and so we get this, wildly changing assortment of things. And it was I wasn't paying attention to what hot sauces he had pulled out, and I looked at the back, and I think it said something like 110 calories, and I was like,
wow,
like what is? It was a hot chili oil.
Okay.
Oh.
Yeah.
I was like, is this the energy drink that Spike makes?
We don't make that anymore. It was a failure.
Too many calories.
Well, and I think because it was a chili oil, it was now a major condiment. So probably a tablespoon or something like that instead of a teaspoon. So yeah.
So do you have a hot take today, Claire? We don't have to have one every time. It's hard to keep coming up with them.
Well, on the episode where you were interviewing me, we just were chatting about rules and regulations for so long that I didn't have a chance to share my hot take. And I know it's a wildly hot take in the hot sauce world, but I don't mind a runny sauce. I don't like dripper caps, so I'm with you on that one. Yeah. I can control my own pour. I also take off the shaker caps on spices too, which always throws my husband off, especially when we first met. I just took all the tops off of the spices, and he lost them everywhere. But a runny sauce, I will happily take a too runny sauce over a too thick sauce. I do not want to fight to get that sauce out of the bottle once it's gotten like in the fridge. That drives me nuts. And in a runny sauce, you're not going to be able to use it everywhere. You're not going to be able to pour it on your plate. It's nice to kind of have like a few dollops of a few different sauces on your plate and be able to pull from whatever you're eating. So runny sauce isn't going to be able to do that very well, but it's definitely going to be able to go in a burrito well. It's definitely going to be able to go like into a chili or some other sauce. I like vinegar forward sauces. There's another hot take for you, but representative of the sauces that we do vinegar forward sauces. And I don't want it to just be vinegar and salt. Like, it has to have flavor, but I don't feel that if a sauce is runny, then it automatically doesn't have flavor. I think there can be a lot of flavor in a sauce that can come from high flavor ingredients, and it can still be runny.
Yeah.
So there you go.
I would agree with that. And I love when I'm on like Reddit hot sauce forums, and it's just like the craft world doesn't exist. It's everybody talking about the same grocery store brands over and over again. And you got the gatewayers that are like, oh, these, Tabasco, Cholula, and then they get grumpy about it. And then you have everybody that hasn't experienced the craft stuff, and so they haven't had their eyes opened yet. And then you have this weird middle ground of people that are like, and I love these people because they say Tabasco, Cholula, all those thin runny sauces from the grocery store, they have a place. They're not the profound $15 a bottle premium ingredient sauces, but they have a place, and you shouldn't trash on somebody for enjoying that, because those people might eventually turn into hot sauce snobs and enter into the craft world. And so we shouldn't gateway them. And so, yeah, I like that you say you're okay with runny sauces. That is a hot take for sure. Very divisive.
I want my sauce to be pourable. That's my,
I think that's fine. Yeah. I is for me, as long as it coats, that's the most important thing. If they don't coat, then I have a hard time with it.
Yeah.
So I'm going to call this a salty Spike segment, because I'm actually a little bit angry about this. So because of this podcast, I've had the privilege to try a lot of great sauces out there, or potentially great sauces that are not very good, but should be, because of this thing about salt. I don't know where you guys feel about this, but I feel like there's a certain amount of salt you need to have in a sauce. It's a pretty wide range, but you need to have a certain amount, or else what you're doing is the opposite of what a condiment is supposed to do. A condiment is supposed to add flavor to the food you're putting it on, not take flavor away. So when I get a sauce that has 10 milligrams, per teaspoon, that's not enough salt. If I have a sauce, I'd say like 35 to like 150. I've had them, and Frank's is well beyond that, but 35 to 150, it needs to hit a certain lower threshold and I'm telling you, I mean, a lot of really, like, the ingredients in these sauces are beautiful. The makeup of them is beautiful. And I go to taste them and it's just bland.
They're muted.
Yeah.
And they're doing the opposite to the food they're putting it on. They're actually taking away flavor, and that's awful. And it makes it really, as a chef, it makes me angry to think, I get it. I've heard the argument, and Zac has this argument, but he puts enough salt. I want to make sure and say this, because I have a lot. I love Zac's sauces, but he is salt sensitive, and so he doesn't put as much salt in his. And my critique of his sauces has always been, I feel like needs just a little bit more salt. He says, well, I make my sauces for me, and I totally agree. I do the same thing for me. I get it, but he puts enough salt in there. But if you're not putting enough salt, you're just ruining the food you're putting it on. Just put some salt on it, please.
It's a flavor bridge, right?
Yeah.
It amplifies flavors.
I've had several in the last couple of days. I've had 0%.
So I used to hate salt. So that's why when I said that I have sometimes I don't eat enough salt. I used to hate salt, and I just I don't know where it came. Well, actually, no, I do know where it came from. Turns out I hate iodine. Weird.
Yeah.
And it took me a long time. First time I had kosher salt, I was like, what is this? My world has changed. But so I hated iodine. So I hated salt. And even to this day, if it's in a soup or something, I'm not going to notice if it's table salt, but if that's all that somebody has on the table, it just will absolutely ruin a dish for me. But so I was low salt on everything for a really long time, and it gave me a lot of health problems. But I think that there's a place. There is a place for low salt, and there is, but you leave so much flavor on the table. Yeah, and what you're saying about actually taking salt away from the dish, that is literally the opposite of what you're supposed to do.
If you've seasoned your meal, and then you add sauce to it that is not seasoned, you've actually unseasoned the meal.
Yeah. It's actually the number one thing that I train people to in my kitchen. If I'm there's actually only one other person in my kitchen right now that I trust fully. I'm not there. You taste it all by yourself. You decide if that's got the right salt level, if that's where it needs to be. And then if he's not there and I'm not there, then there's 3 people who have to combine together to taste it, to determine that the salt level's right and things are hitting where they're supposed to. And hitting, I feel like it's the number one thing you have to do in a hot sauce is just hit the salt right.
I ask, my crew has to taste every single sauce. Yeah. Every batch. Yeah. John, did you want to chime in about it at all, or did you have anything
Yeah, no, I would agree. Salt is super important, and I have just a few sweet sauces that I add just a little bit of salt to. And I'm not a chef. Spike, you have instincts and intuition that most of us could never develop, just due to your training. But I think about, like, when I make cookies, in that recipe, there's salt, and you go look up why, and it's because it makes it more sweet. It pops the flavor.
Yeah.
And so I kind of took that lesson early on when I was developing some of my sweet heat sauces. And I was like, I want just a little bit of salt in there because I think that pops the flavors more. I didn't really know. I just had some probably naive intuition. But yeah, it's nice to hear that you guys think that there should be some measure no matter what. And then it's just a game of finding that right ratio that balances and couples everything else together. It's kind of like the hub of the wheel of flavors. It's turning the axle, and that's where you're getting the flavors from.
One of the very first things I did, we probably had been in business maybe a year, is I spent a day or two and I went through about the top 20 most popular hot sauces in the country and figured out the percentage of salt for each one, and then found a median, and that's my area. So I think that it's usually about 1 to 2%, by 1.5% is around where they're at. So I try and hit about 60 to 85 milligrams of salt per teaspoon, and that's where I want to be. 75 is the sweet spot.
That's the happy zone.
Yeah,
but I think that's where we hit on like all of ours.
Yeah,
that range.
Yeah, if you're hitting there, you're doing fine. Some of them need more, to feel like if there's more tomato in it, it needs a little more sometimes.
Well, it's funny. We cook with a lot of beer, and when we cook with an IPA versus like a malty beer, I prefer the malty beers to drink and then also to cook with. They just have a base flavor that complements the peppers nicely. But when we cook with an IPA, I find myself over salting it like every time because I feel like there should be a malty flavor that's not there. And I keep being like, oh, we need to add a little bit more salt to bring out that malty flavor. And it's not there. And then I'm like, crap, I've over salted it.
I got a question for you about that, because we've got several hot sauces. Do you have any, John?
We tinkered. We prototyped for one of the big breweries down in Salt Lake City. Got to the final stages. They fired their marketing team and went a different direction entirely with everything. So I have a bunch of really nice recipes that I've got in a book hidden somewhere, but haven't brought any. And in Utah, the dirty 4-letter word is beer.
Right.
And so we live in sort of this cultural island sometimes, which has some positives and some negatives. But yeah, beer hot sauces has a slightly higher hurdle to climb over for us, despite the fact that I love beer and I love malty beer, just like you, Claire. That's the go-to.
Well, and on social media as well. I don't know if you've run into this, Claire. You probably have, but when you try and tag something on social media, I'll tell you a little secret about that. But when you try and tag something on social media, they will automatically eject it if it has any alcohol related.
Yes.
I've still sent them saying there's no alcohol in it, and they still pick it back.
Yep.
But we don't use beer; we use the wort.
I love that. That's in your black and gold beer mustard, right?
Black and gold in our beer and pizza. We've got two. We've got a red and green beer sauce. All of them we use the wort.
I feel like I remember hearing you say that, and I feel like I need to. So we actually tend to use beer seconds. In the state of Vermont, they have to destroy any seconds. And I don't know if you guys know Hetty Topper beer, The Alchemist. It's famous beer, New England beer. And they're really into social responsibility. And so the idea of pouring anything down the drain is just, let's make a use for it. They're really incredible in their social responsibility. But so when we had started talking about hot sauce, they have all these seconds, and we agreed that them putting their beer in my hot sauce would be destroying the beer. Nobody's going to want to drink the beer, nobody's going to distill it out of the hot sauce and drink it as a beer afterward. And I've since gotten confirmation from the Department of Liquor and Lottery, but yeah, so that's how, so we often get seconds. So that,
that's awesome.
I like that.
Yeah.
Waste not, want not. That's a great approach.
Yeah. Well, and I have the same thing. I tell, we work with a couple different coffee companies, Camiac mostly. And the first thing I said to them was, I actually want the bitter stuff. I want it to, the worst things about coffee are going to come through all the heat.
Yeah.
So whatever you need to get rid of, give that to me. That's awesome.
That's how I feel about alcohol. It's we used to get wine from a local winemaker, and he would give me everything that couldn't come through the filter at the end of the bottling. So it was like the really yeasty stuff. And I want the yeastier, the better. Like, I'm going to let it sit out for a little bit and get like gross, and it's going to be perfect for
awesome. Flavor Balance Heat is brought to you by High Desert Sauce Co. out of Tucson, Arizona. Zac is the owner and creative mind behind High Desert Sauce Co.'s hot sauces. He says, at High Desert Sauce Co., we make sauces that we love. The balance of bold heat and fresh flavor is the heart of our philosophy. We keep it simple by using the best ingredients we can get our hands on and letting the natural flavors run the show. High Desert Sauce Co., just the good stuff. Visit High Desert at hdsauceco.com. Okay, let's see. We are at hot sauce show and tell. I'm excited about this. John, you're the guest. Let's go with hot sauce show and tell. What do you got to show us today?
I'm going to highlight Colorful Colorado Creations. They have a black and gold sauce that they've just brought to market over the last couple months. It's basically a buffalo sauce with black garlic in it. It's been one of my favorite sauces I've had this year. I love it. And also, I'm biased. I grew up with Derek, who started this company. It's been a really crazy roundabout story that we've shared, coming and going in and out of each other's lives. And I just love that now we both get to have hot sauce companies in different states and talk about things that we're doing. When I go home to Colorado, where the family's still at, we'll go out and get a lunch, and we'll bring samples of prototypes and crazy things that we're trying. And he brought this, and it's a fantastic garlic flavor bomb. I love it. It's nice and thick. And he got the perfect balance of the cayenne buffalo flavors with the black garlic, which you guys have done black garlic stuff from what I understand. And that's a narrow window of opportunity from not enough to too much. And he found that sweet spot pretty well. So yeah, the Colorful Colorado Creations, that's who my show and tell is today.
That's fantastic. I haven't had any of his sauces, but I'm looking forward to trying it. And I know that I talked to Zac about having him on the podcast sometime in the near future. So
he would be a great guy. He's had a great backstory just in his life in general. And yeah, he makes fantastic sauces in a state that is just jam-packed with excellent sauce makers. But he's still having a good ascent, growing his market and his brand, and he makes just really great flavors. They're all in that creative side where it's not just the usuals. And so, yeah, I love shouting out Derek. It's been a fun ride with him, just having the full circle.
Awesome. Claire, do you have one? Oh, you do have one.
Yes. I brought Queen Majesty. Let's see if I can get it to show up here. Is that showing up?
Yes, kind of.
So there we go. Kind of. Yeah. Blur. Sorry. I'll figure out something better for that. But this is Queen Majesty's Manzano Serrano hot sauce. I went to the New York Hot Sauce Expo back last month, whenever that was. Time is a blur this time of year. And it was really great. She and I actually got to hang out a little bit, got to talk sauce, and I got to see her setup, which was really awesome. I always love connecting with other women hot sauce makers. Yes. And it was, she was, the sauce is really great. It's got a really nice ginger flavor, nice lemon juice. I've been having fun just like trying it out in different places and seeing what it could work on. It's also a little bit creamy. It's got some olive oil in it. So yeah.
I'm gonna have to get some of that. Definitely. I love their sauces. And
there's no wrong choice with that brand.
Yeah, no, she's great. And actually, I didn't bring it over here, but just last night we had, she gave me a spice blend that she had made for like a specific group. And we put it on a pork tenderloin and grilled it. It was so good.
I think it would be fantastic to have a panel of women sauce makers to highlight the fact that this isn't just a bunch of 26-year-old guys making sauce. That this is a diverse and increasingly more diverse community.
Yeah,
I think that would be fantastic.
And I think a lot of people, there's sauces like Queen Majesty, which, it's kind of right in her name that it's a woman and, she's the one who's running it all. There's also a lot of other sauce companies that might be a husband-wife team or something like that. And it's not necessarily as obvious that there's still, kind of a woman in a leader in the leadership role at the company. Heartbeat is one of the ones that stands out to me. That's like that.
Oh, I love their sauces so much.
Oh, their sauces are so good.
Oh my gosh.
We talked at the New York Hot Sauce Expo, and he is actually from the Eastern Townships, which is just it's in Quebec, like just north of here in Vermont. And so he comes down this way fairly regularly. And I was like, so when you're down, you're gonna come and like see my facility, and we're gonna like talk shop and equipment, right? And he was like, oh my God, yes. So
that's great.
I'm probably never gonna get up to Thunder Bay. So best I got is getting him to my facility. So
that's fantastic. Yeah, we are a husband-wife team. My wife is very introverted, always in the background, and because I design the sauces, but my wife is like always on the move, doing all the running around, and you just don't ever get to see it. She's amazing. I also want to get Bobby from Bobby's boat sauce. I don't know if you're familiar with out of Portland.
I know of it. I don't know her.
Fantastic sauce, so good. I think I have an extra bottle. I might send you one.
Yeah.
So there you go.
Yeah. No charity needed. Just
really good.
My husband is really excited about the prospects of the amount of sauce that is going to start coming into the house because of this podcast.
Oh, I'm glad. My wife is not happy about it. It's growing and growing so fast. Yeah. All right. So mine is Hawaiian hot teas. I think I may have done. There we go. Can we get it? Hawaiian hot teas. It's the Maui Aui. And I just got connected with these guys. They're so great. I'm going to say, though.
I see what just happened here.
Well, and actually, I do want to say on those drippers, or whatever they're called, the fun stoppers, I've had companies ask me for them, like restaurants ask me for them on the regular. And so I think that there's a place for everything kind of person. But yeah, they shouldn't exist as a matter of course, but I understand why they exist in the world.
Yeah. As somebody who's been in the restaurant industry, when you put the sauce out there, you're not getting anything back for that. People aren't paying for that. And we have 6 sauces with US Foods, and restaurants will carry our sauce on their tables. And, that can be an issue for us as a result, because we have to make sure and keep our prices low enough. All right, Maui Aui. I'm going to try this one out right now.
Yeah, I'm gonna have this one.
I'm gonna try this.
All right, if we're gonna do some bottle lipping here, I suppose I'll join in.
That is delicious. Oh, also Hawaiian hot tea. Oh, I taste that onion. Oh, it's so good. I mean, Hawaiian onion.
Wow.
The bottle. Oh, it's got me. I had a lot. I know that his bottles. He's in Hawaii, and and they have a hard time getting everything because of where they're at. And so these ones, the cap they actually have to use the stoppers because
that's the seal.
It's too big. Yeah. I'm going to see what we can do about helping them out with that. We talked a little bit. So
I wonder, our bottles come from China, and interestingly, there's another, we use the fancy bottle instead of the woozy bottle. And there's a New Jersey maker of those same bottles. And I was like, oh, that's perfect. Totally fits in with our local branding and everything. And the bottles are crap. So the China bottles are actually the really good ones. But I wonder, in Hawaii are they able to source directly, going the other direction?
I think I talked to him about China. That. It's Tamaris, and we should have him on. And I think I talked to him about that, and there was an issue. I think it had to do with anything coming in is difficult now.
Yeah.
So I think that's basically what it boiled down to.
Yeah. I mean, it was especially during the pandemic. I mean, getting anything was just awful.
He also runs into issues with sending stuff out because by the time it gets to the US, he has to have extra packaging or else it just ends up broken.
Well, I know when I was first starting out, Adobo Loco they were they're out of Hawaii, and it was the first time I really saw the standard boxes that everybody uses now. And I think it was before, I don't know if it was before Fuego, but maybe I just hadn't seen Fuego and the Heatness. I don't think the Heatness was doing a subscription box back then. But Adobo Loco had one of those set boxes, and they had, huge quantities of them. And I remember they were just one of the brands that I was following what they were doing to try to figure out how to navigate the hot sauce world. But I think they had to custom make those boxes because which now I feel like is easy to do, but back then it felt wildly complicated.
Yeah. All right. How did everybody like their sauces?
So good. I'm going to have some for dinner.
So do you have any questions for us?
Yeah, I do. I have one that I think will be fun to talk about. And that's on the topic of crazy collaboration sauces. Who is your dream get for a collaboration sauce?
Claire, I'll let you answer that first because I think we've got a running saga about the one I'm going to answer.
Gosh, dream get. I don't know. So like every time we do work with another celebrity, there's always this feeling of like, who else out there is similar. So we work with the band Guster, which I don't know if you guys are familiar with them, but they're a national band, but stronger in New England. They formed in Boston, and the leads, actually two of them now live in Vermont. And but Ryan Miller, lead singer, came and visited us, and we did some stuff. And after he left, one of my employees was like, if you can get Cat Wright, then I'll work for you for free. And Cat Wright's another local musician. And then we also work with Keith from the Try Guys. And so we've thought about other YouTubers and where that would be fun. And recently we've had this like string of working with celebrities that haven't panned out for one reason or another. So I can't necessarily talk about who they are. But so, gosh, dream get, I don't know. I like, honestly, it's just fun to work with somebody that other people are like, ooh, like I'm not a celebrity person. Like that's I guess a thing that Vermont apparently is known for among celebrities is that we don't really care that you're a celebrity. So there's, Luis Guzman lives here in my town, and he shops at our regular store, and every once in a while somebody's like, oh, look, it's him. And we're like, yeah, because he lives here. Yeah. Yeah. He's eating lunch. Like, yep, you do too. But yeah, so I'm not a big celebrity person, but I kind of, it is fun to make other people excited. So I don't know.
Well, I did get kind of my ultimate was to make a sauce with Alton Brown, which was really great.
Yeah, that's so cool.
Yeah, it was. He's and I will tell you, he's the nicest guy you could I mean, I've
actually met him.
Oh, have you? I've met him on Zoom.
He went to culinary school here in Montpelier. So
that's right. I forgot about that.
So that school is not even here anymore, but he came and gave talks, and especially as an up and coming food world person, he was always great. And the science aspect of it too is great.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And the sauce that we made together was beautiful. It is really a beautiful sauce. So we just sent him a bunch this season. I think they still have a few left, but not very many. I might be wrong about that. They may have sold out already. So it's worth checking out. But as far as somebody I'd like to get, well, now there's the ongoing saga of Zac and me doing $100 hot sauce, and we go back and forth about it. We've got ideas for ingredients, can't agree on anything, which is awesome. Eventually will probably happen. We keep talking about it, but I talked to somebody this week. I can't say who, but I think there's a couple of bands I'd really like to do. I love working with, we work with Skating Polly, who's pretty well known in the Northwest. Fantastic alternative band. And I can think of about 10 other bands I'd probably love to make hot sauce for. So I'd awesome. Go with that. Yeah.
Love it.
How about you?
Yeah, I'd struggle with celebrity myself, Claire. I just want people to be normal. And so when I was thinking of this, I was like, man, I can't think of anyone good. And then I was like, I think Terry Crews would be pretty fun to do a hot sauce with. I think he would be a fun personality that would enjoy the process and he would be kind of a fun guy. He's one of my favorite Hot Ones episodes, and just I think that would be a fun collaboration to do. Maybe a more realistic one would be, so I'm from Colorado, huge Denver Nuggets fan, and if you probably don't pay attention to Denver Nuggets ball, but they've got a center who's maybe a top 10 basketball player ever, who's this goofy Serbian. He's a 7, unathletic, unassuming guy who's just an amazing basketball player and incredibly humble. He hates the spotlight, but his nickname is Big Honey, and I would love to do a honey like hot sauce with him. I think that would be fun to do, a Denver Nuggets hot sauce.
Yeah, that would be awesome.
Sounds great. Absolutely.
Well, the name is already taken, but we make a nugget honey we make the Hot Ones nugget honey, and like that would be such an awesome name for something like that.
His point guard, they've grown up together. They're very tight, great pick and roll 2-man basketball game they play, and their nickname, because a very unathletic, unassuming guy with a very short point guard, their nickname is Peanut Butter and Jelly. And I'm like, oh, peanut butter and jelly hot sauce would be a lot of fun.
I feel like I heard somebody did one recently.
I have one from Nathan Grice from Grice Grows something. I can't remember what it's like a cottage home brand that he does. But yeah, he sent me a bottle of his peanut butter and jelly hot sauce I have.
That's awesome.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
I feel like the best hot sauces are ones that are familiar but unique. Yeah. So if you take some classic combination, some classic flavor that everybody knows, and then just move it a step off to the side, it can be exactly, that those can be huge hits. So I feel like a peanut butter and jelly with into a Thai or like a Asian sauce or something like that you would put on Asian food.
Well, I think that's it, unless anybody else has anything else to say.
Desert sauce, last meal sauce.
So
I have one for this.
We swapped it out for next sauce, but you know what? Let's do it.
Yeah, because I brought one, because this was one that caught my eye before I even knew this was your brand. But the pepper steak sauce, I thought about this one the longest of a last meal kind of sauce. And this black pepper steak sauce blew me away when I tried it, because its flavors were exactly what I wanted a spicy burger or a steak to taste like. And I think that would be my last meal, because I think a steak is a pretty good last meal. And that was something I really bonded with my father before he passed away when I was 18, was how do you make a good steak? And he beat that into me for a couple of years in high school. How do you make a good steak? And I think my last meal would be my dad's steak with your pepper steak sauce on it.
Oh, thank you. Oh, wow, that means a lot. Thank you very much, John. Wow.
Yeah, that's
awesome.
Yeah, thank you. So I guess we should have a last meal hot sauce as well. Well, I've said mine a few times. Do you have one, Claire? Did we talk about yours?
We did, but I feel like that's such a hard question
It is a hard question
to answer. It would so depend on what the meal was. And I mean, I feel like for me, a last meal would definitely be something from my childhood. And I actually did eat a lot of spicy food in my childhood, but I don't know. Well, and especially because it can't be one of my own. My smoked onion is just always my go-to. But,
so good, though.
I think mine would be the my mom's. You just now changed what my last meal would be, and the sauce. Well, I think the sauce I've said before, but it would be my mom's chili rellenos and my dad's chili. I would have to have those two things together, and then I would have to have the Charman green sauce with it. Because I can't say Zac's. I'm not allowed to do that. Yeah. I would say Zac's otherwise.
Absolute fantastic Verde. So
yeah, good. So good. That's one of those sauces that made me rethink my Verde. I went, oh my God, what am I doing wrong? And I did. I actually redid my Verde after that.
I like the pivot.
Yeah. Well, awesome. Thank you. Well, first of all, I'd like to say something. So this is our very first episode with Claire as a co-host. And thank you so much, Claire. We are so happy. Zach's not here to say it with me, but we're so happy to have you on board. This is fantastic.
This is so much fun. I mean, like I said to you before, I can talk sauce all day, every day. So being able to get together with you guys once a week and talk sauce sounds great.
Yeah, it's a nice outlet for it. Makes me not do it throughout the week as much.
Leave other people alone.
Yeah.
Especially because you have to edit this, so you get like a triple dose of the entire conversation.
I really do. So people don't know, I edit the whole thing, and it takes about 3 to 6 hours. And then I rewatch it and write down all the sauces that we've talked about and everything. And usually I'll edit a little bit more, and then it's done. And so it's become quite a process, but I'm a little bit of a perfectionist, as I'm sure all of us are. And I'm getting better and better at it, but I'll get faster, but I'm not a video editor. So.
Well, it's been an absolute privilege to be here with you guys. I feel really honored and a bit surprised that I get to have a conversation with people that I've looked up to. So thank you for the invitation.
Thank you so much, John. I love your sauces. I have so many, literally sitting on my counter in there, and I use them all the time. So thank you very much.
Appreciate it. I send as many people your way as I can, since we're state neighbors.
Yeah, absolutely.
John, it was really great getting to know you. It was. I'm really excited to try some of your sauces.
Well, we'll connect after this. I'll give a capsaicin care package coming your way.
I'll send you some stuff too.
I would love to. Although I've had most of your stuff already, but I won't complain with more.
Most we've made thousands of different sauces.
Well, I've had everything Roger has brought into his store.
Awesome.
All right, you have a good one now. Thank you so much.
Thanks, friends.
Flavor Balance Heat, the podcast for hot sauce lovers and makers, was brought to you by Butterfly Bakery of Vermont, High Desert Sauce Co., and Irish Spike's unique hot sauces and Vandal pepper sauces. This has been a Spike Mind Media production.